you were never lost. You were broadcasting. Every thought, every heartbeat, every quiet longing was sending a pulse into the invisible air around you. And maybe you didn't notice it then, the way the right person appeared, the way a door you didn't knock on opened anyway, but you felt it, didn't you? That subtle hum in your chest, that fleeting moment when reality itself seemed to lean closer. They called it luck, but you knew better. You felt something aligning, because life, my friend, is not a linear climb. It's a signal, a frequency that speaks the language of resonance. The reality you've been imagining has never been waiting out there. It's been vibrating here, just slightly out of tune, waiting for you to adjust the dial, like a song that's been playing beneath the static all along. And that's the quiet secret most people never realize. The universe doesn't reward effort, it responds to coherence. You can chase 1,000 outcomes, push through 100 walls, but if your inner signal is distorted, the world will mirror that distortion perfectly, not as punishment, but as precision. You might feel it even now, a tension between the version of you that strives and the one that already knows. The static hum of doubt against the pure tone of truth. That friction isn't failure, it's feedback. It's the invitation to listen deeper. Imagine your consciousness as a tuning fork, trembling with potential. When it strikes the note of authenticity clear, unfiltered, awake, the field responds instantly. You don't have to force it, you just have to be it. So as you stand at this threshold, remember the signal is not somewhere you must reach. It's something you already are, waiting to be remembered. The frequency of the life you've been imagining is already humming through your veins. All that's left is to tune in. The hum of that signal never disappears, it only gets buried. Beneath habit, beneath noise, beneath the endless scroll of other people's frequencies competing for your attention. You might wake in the morning already out of tune, your energy diluted by the echoes of yesterday's fears. And you wonder why the music of life sounds muffled, why opportunity feels like it's passing you by. But the truth is simple and a little unsettling. You're still broadcasting, just on the wrong channel, and yet the static isn't your enemy. It's your map. Every distortion carries data. Every misalignment points toward clarity. The friction you feel between what you desire and what you live is the sound of interference, old beliefs humming too loud, unresolved emotions vibrating against your natural rhythm. Imagine two signals overlapping, one crisp and true, the other slightly warped. They create waves of confusion, beats of dissonance. That's what happens when your subconscious runs one story and your conscious mind speaks another. Think of the phrases you repeat without realizing. It's hard. I never catch a break. Maybe I'm not ready. These aren't harmless thoughts. They're transmission codes. Each one instructs the quantum field to hold your frequency where it's been, not where you long to go. And because energy follows instruction, the universe echoes back experiences that confirm the script, not to trap you, but to help you hear the difference between harmony and noise. But here's where it turns. Awareness dissolves interference. The very moment you recognize the hum of an old narrative, it begins to lose its grip. Observation is purification. The static thins. The channel clears. You start to sense life responding faster, cleaner, as if the air itself has been washed. Still, beneath that first wave of relief, another layer waits, the emotional residue of everything you've avoided feeling. Anxiety, shame, comparison, the unspoken fear of being too much or not enough. These are not random moods. They are frequencies too, heavy, sticky signals that anchor your field to outdated coordinates. And the environment joins in. The spaces you inhabit, the people you allow, the sounds and screens that fill your day, all of them modulate your resonance. You are, at every moment, in duet with your surroundings. If your atmosphere is chaotic, Your field learns the pattern of chaos. If your environment reflects peace, your system entrains to calm. Let's look closer. Static, after all, is just signal waiting to be tuned. When you pause, breathe, and listen beneath the surface noise, you begin to perceive the melody underneath. That's the real you, untouched, still humming. The goal isn't to fight the interference, it's to listen so completely that what's false simply fades from lack of attention. And when it fades, something extraordinary begins. You don't have to push for manifestation or strain to attract. Instead, reality starts to respond. The cluttered loops dissolve into patterns of synchronicity. The missed timing becomes perfect timing. The people who resonate with your higher note begin to appear as if summoned by an invisible conductor. This is the threshold between worlds, the place where noise transforms back into music. It's not a doorway you walk through, it's a vibration you rise into. Once you cross it, even slightly, you feel the shift in everything, the air clearer, the path lighter, the future closer. So if you've felt like you're standing between stations, part of you still bound to the past, another part already sensing the pull of what's next, know this: the interference isn't blocking you, it's guiding you. It's showing you exactly where the old frequencies live, asking only that you retune, because once the static settles, you'll realize the broadcast never stopped. It was your attention that drifted, and now it's returning. When the static quiets, you begin to notice what caused it all along. The distortion wasn't random, it followed a pattern, precise as mathematics, intimate as breath. Every misalignment you've lived has roots in three simple frequencies: the beliefs you inherited, the emotions you rehearse, and the environments you allow. Together, they form the triad that shapes your broadcast to the universe. Let's start with the first tone: old subconscious beliefs. These are the ancient scripts etched into your neural circuits, written by childhood echoes, culture, or the voices of those who never learned to see beyond survival. They hum quietly beneath awareness, setting the rhythm for your entire energetic field. I must prove myself. Love must be earned. The world takes before it gives. You may not say them out loud, but they sing through your vibration, and the field, ever obedient, mirrors them in the form of circumstance. Awakening begins when you stop judging these beliefs as flaws and start reading them as coordinates. Each belief is a frequency marker pointing to where your energy has been anchored. Once seen, it can be tuned. Awareness, again, is the first alchemy. When you witness the script without merging with it, the signal begins to shift. A sentence loses its power the moment it's spoken in the light. Now comes the second tone: your current emotional state. Emotion is the amplifier of belief. If thought is the note, feeling is the volume. Fear, anger, shame, they all compress the signal, shrinking the field through which your life force flows. Gratitude, joy, curiosity, they expand it. Think of emotion as temperature. The warmer you're feeling, the faster your vibration moves, the more possibilities can find you. And yet, emotions are not enemies. They're instruments waiting to be played consciously. When you feel anger rise, that's energy returning to awareness, asking to be redirected. When sadness arrives, it's showing you where the frequency of loss still echoes. You don't heal emotion by silencing it, you heal it by tuning it. Every breath becomes a chance to reframe feeling into frequency, to turn reaction into resonance. Then comes the third tone, the outer world, your environment. We underestimate this one most of all. Every object in your space, every voice you engage with, every routine you repeat contributes to the orchestra of your reality. A room cluttered with the past hums with low frequency. A friendship built on mutual limitation drags your vibration downward. Even the digital landscape, what you scroll, what you consume, sends signals through your nervous system. And yet, in the same way, a single note can retune an entire instrument. Small shifts here carry immense power. Clear one shelf, light one candle, replace one conversation that drains you with silence that restores you. These micro-adjustments compound into coherence. But here's where it turns: the triad isn't separate. Beliefs feed emotions. Emotions attract environments. Environments reinforce beliefs. It's a feedback loop, self-sustaining, until you intervene with awareness. Imagine standing in the center of the three mirrors, reflecting one another endlessly, each reflection shaping the next. When you shift even one mirror, the whole image transforms. This is the quantum truth hidden inside daily life. Your inner world and outer world are not two things. They are one continuous waveform folding over itself, expressing coherence or distortion based on what you hold inside. Real change begins not by breaking the loop, but by harmonizing it. So pause here, feel where the triad lives in you. Notice the thought that always repeats, the emotion that lingers, the space that feels heavy. That's your tuning point. You don't have to fix all three at once. Just one adjustment begins the cascade. A single clear intention can reverberate through the entire system. From this realization flows a subtle empowerment. You are not the static. You are the tuner. The old scripts, the emotional turbulence, the heavy rooms, they are not your identity, only your instruments. And when you choose to retune them with compassion, the field listens. The signal brightens. Coherence returns. The triad of misalignment is not a curse, it's a compass. Each point of distortion marks a doorway back into harmony. Step through one, and you step through them all. And as you begin to recognize those doorways, something deeper unfolds: the realization that you are the entire orchestra. Your mind, your emotions, your body, your surroundings. They're not separate instruments competing for control. They are strings of one vast instrument, and the melody of your life plays only as clearly as its tuning allows. Picture yourself standing in the center of that symphony. Every thought a violin note, every breath a drumbeat, every feeling a vibration rippling through unseen strings. When one string tightens, too much fear, guilt, resistance, the tone wavers. When another slackens, apathy, avoidance, doubt, the song dulls. But when all are in balance, the resonance fills the room of your life. You may have mistaken chaos for complexity, yet harmony was never about perfection, it was about coherence. Even dissonant notes, when placed intentionally, enrich the song. The same is true for you. The emotions you labeled wrong, the thoughts you tried to silence, they were part of your soundscape all along. Integration, not suppression, is how you tune the self. Now, listen deeper. The mind is the conductor, swift, analytical, brilliant, but easily seduced by noise. The heart is the instrument of tone, guiding emotion, flavor, and warmth. The body is the resonating chamber, translating invisible vibration into tangible rhythm. Each depends on the other. Without the mind, you lose direction. Without the heart, you lose soul. Without the body, you lose resonance. So, how do you retune? Through conscious synchronization. When thought, emotion, and embodiment move in agreement, the sound becomes unmistakable. You've felt this before, those moments of effortless flow, when you weren't forcing anything, yet everything aligned. That's coherence. The physics of self-awareness made visible. Let's look closer. Your mind holds patterns. Your breath resets them. Every exhale releases old mental noise. Every inhale introduces clarity. That's how you rewrite neural music. Your body stores frequencies too: tension in the shoulders, tightness in the chest. These are echoes of beliefs once useful, but now obsolete. Through movement, sound, or stillness, you invite release. The muscles soften, the energy recalibrates, and the heart, it never stopped knowing the rhythm. When you pause long enough to feel it, you can sense its pulse syncing with something larger, the frequency of aliveness itself. Gratitude amplifies that rhythm. Forgiveness purifies it. Presence stabilizes it. This is not mysticism, it's mechanics. Coherence in biology mirrors coherence in consciousness. But here's the subtle paradox: you cannot force harmony. You can only listen it into existence. The more you strain to perfect yourself, the more dissonance you create. Tuning the instrument of self is less about control and more about surrender, the kind that sharpens perception until you hear what's already true. Still, beneath that surrender lies mastery, the willingness to keep listening even when the music fades, the courage to retune after life's inevitable distortions. Because every time you fall out of alignment, the act of returning deepens your resonance. Each recalibration expands your range. Imagine a musician in an ancient temple, adjusting the strings of their instrument by ear, guided only by the echo that fills the hall. That's you in this moment. The temple is your consciousness. The strings are your dimensions: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and the echo is the universe itself, responding to your tone in real time. You don't need to know every note, you only need to feel when one is off. Awareness, again, is the tuner's gift. You pause, you breathe, you adjust, and then the sound returns, clearer than before, carrying the imprint of every adjustment you've ever made. In this understanding, self-work stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like music practice. The goal is not flawless performance, but deeper intimacy with your own sound. Each moment of awareness is another rehearsal for coherence, another chance to play the song you came here to play. The field is listening. The orchestra is waiting. And your instrument, this living, breathing symphony called you, is ready to vibrate again in perfect resonance. The echo of that inner symphony lingers, and from it emerges a new discipline, not discipline of force, but of devotion. Because coherence is not a single event, it's a rhythm you learn to live inside of. Just as no musician stays in tune without practice, no consciousness remains aligned without intention. Each morning, the field resets. You awaken suspended between two frequencies, the residue of yesterday and the raw potential of now. The first signal you send determines which one becomes your day. That's why alignment begins before action, before words, before motion. It starts the moment you remember you're a transmitter. So, what does this practice look like? It's simpler and more sacred than you might think. You begin with stillness, a pause long enough to hear your own breath returning from the silence. Feel the rhythm of it, that inhale expanding your frequency, that exhale releasing what no longer resonates. Breath is the oldest tuner on earth, the invisible bridge between energy and matter. Then comes intention, not the desperate kind that clings to outcome, but the kind that feels like a whisper into the quantum. You declare your chosen vibration for the day: clarity, peace, abundance, joy, not as a wish, but as a tone you're willing to hold. Speak it inwardly, softly, like you're aligning a compass needle to true north. From here, embodiment follows. You move with awareness. Every gesture, every step becomes a continuation of that tone. If irritation arises, it's not failure, it's feedback. You adjust. Like a musician hearing one string drift, you breathe, retune, and continue. Now watch what happens when you carry this coherence beyond your morning ritual. Life begins to organize itself around your signal. Conversations flow differently. the right opportunities surface. Even the challenges seem to arrive with perfect timing, each one a test of frequency. Asking, can you stay tuned while the world shifts around you? Evening comes, and the practice completes its circuit. Reflection replaces ambition. Instead of tallying achievements, you listen. What note did you hold today? What dissonance arose? And what truth did it reveal? This is not judgment, it's refinement. Gratitude closes the loop, anchoring the frequency so it carries into tomorrow. And yet, repetition alone isn't enough. Intention must be felt, not just performed. The body must believe the vibration. The heart must echo it. That's why music, movement, and ritual have always accompanied transformation. They remind matter how to remember energy. Consider introducing tiny recalibration rituals throughout your day. A breath before you speak, a pause before you decide, a moment of appreciation before you reach for more. Each one recenters your field, amplifying coherence in small but cumulative ways. The quantum field doesn't measure your power in grand gestures. It reads consistency. It listens for steadiness in the signal. A single day of alignment can spark change, but sustained resonance rewrites reality itself. So, think of your life as a daily song, sunrise to sunset, thought to action, silence to sound. Every note you play, every emotion you choose to hold, adds to the harmony of your unfolding. You don't have to be perfect. You only have to stay aware enough to retune when you drift. Because this practice isn't about becoming a higher version of yourself, it's about remembering the frequency that was always there. Each dawn gives you a new chance to find it again. And when you do, when coherence becomes your habit rather than your goal, you'll notice something subtle. The external world begins to move with you. The rhythm of reality syncs to your internal pulse. Life stops being a performance and becomes pure improvisation, effortless, alive, and unmistakably yours. When the rhythm of daily resonance becomes steady, something extraordinary begins to occur. You no longer chase alignment, you inhabit it. That's the moment when the future stops being a destination and becomes a frequency you can live from right now. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, the same way dawn seeps into the sky before sunrise. The energy of your future self starts to bleed into your present. You might notice a calm where there used to be urgency, or a flicker of confidence where doubt once lived. These are the first ripples of the future you entering the field. And yet, most people wait. They hold their joy hostage to proof. They say, "I'll feel it when it happens." But in the quantum fabric of existence, that's reversed. The field responds to vibration, not verification. Reality arranges itself to match the emotion you are broadcasting now. So the practice deepens. You begin to feel your future before it arrives. Imagine yourself stepping into that timeline, not through fantasy, but through sensory immersion. Close your eyes and sense the texture of the life you've imagined, the way the air feels lighter, the way you move differently, the confidence in your gestures, the clarity in your breath. You are not pretending. You are synchronizing. Each time you embody that version of yourself, your nervous system learns the language of that vibration. You're no longer signaling lack. You're declaring arrival. From this realization flows power, the understanding that emotion is not a reaction to circumstances, but a rehearsal for them. When you feel joy before the success, gratitude before the manifestation, peace before the solution, you're sculpting the energetic mold that physical reality will later fill. Let's look closer. Suppose your desired reality is abundance. Most people approach it with tension, counting resources, measuring loss. But your future self, the one who already lives in abundance, radiates ease. They make decisions from overflow, not from fear. The more you align with that emotional signature now, the faster your external world mirrors it back. Or love. Your future frequency of love is not about attracting someone new. It's about becoming the vibration that naturally magnetizes connection. You can't summon from emptiness. You radiate from wholeness. When you act, speak, and think as someone who already is love, the field arranges accordingly. This is not pretense, it's calibration. And yet, a paradox arises. Living in the future frequency doesn't mean escaping the present. It means infusing it. You anchor that elevated state into the now until the distinction between becoming and being dissolves entirely. The future is not later. It's layered within this very moment, waiting for coherence to activate it. But here's the secret: few mention this embodiment requires trust. You must allow the old timeline to dissolve without panic. The mind will question, it will seek evidence, it will whisper. What if nothing changes? That's the final test. The universe waits to see whether your frequency will hold steady without proof. And when it does, reality concedes, time bends, circumstances shift. You start encountering coincidences that are too precise to dismiss. Doors that once stayed closed now respond as if they recognize you because energetically they do. You've become a match. Still, this way of living asks for consistency. You can't step into your future once and expect permanence. Just as a dancer keeps rhythm by staying in motion, your alignment stays intact through daily embodiment. Speak like your future self. Walk like them. Rest like them. Respond like them. Every choice is a signal. Every signal a bridge. Soon, the space between imagination and experience collapses. The distinction between wishing and knowing disappears. You realize the future isn't ahead. It's a state of coherence that was always available, awaiting only your permission to exist. And once you grant that permission, the field responds instantly. The music changes. The static dissolves. You are no longer reaching for the life you've been imagining. You're living it. Note by note, breath by breath, right here in the expanding now. When you begin to live from that future frequency, the universe answers back not in thunderclaps or lightning bolts, but in whispers. The feedback arrives softly, coded into the coincidences, woven into the rhythm of your days. You might not even notice it first, but the field has begun to echo you. This is how the language of confirmation speaks through flow, intuition, synchronicity, and subtle resonance. Each sign, each pattern is a mirror reflecting the frequency you're now broadcasting. You wake up one morning and realize your schedule feels lighter, yet you're getting more done. The people who drained your energy fade quietly from your orbit. The right ones appear without effort. These aren't random changes, they're harmonics, reverberations from the new vibration you're sustaining. And yet, doubt may slip in. You might think, am I imagining this? Is this coincidence? But here's the beauty. Questioning doesn't erase the magic. It deepens it. Because when you start looking, truly looking, you train your perception to detect coherence. You refine your ability to notice when the external world is singing back to you. One of the first echoes is effortless flow. Tasks that once felt uphill begin to unfold with elegance. Timing aligns. What you need arrives on cue, not because you forced it, but because you've become compatible with its arrival. This is not luck, it's resonance. You are, at last, in dialogue with the field. Another echo, heightened intuition. Those quiet nudges that whisper, turn here, call them now, wait one more day. Intuition is your future self communicating backward through time. The clearer your frequency, the louder that voice becomes. You stop second-guessing and start following invisible breadcrumbs, only to find they always lead somewhere purposeful. Then come the synchronicities, those small impossibilities that make you laugh under your breath, because you know. The repeating numbers, the song that answers your thought, the stranger who says exactly what you needed to hear. These are not cosmic tricks, they are confirmations of coherence. The field, quite literally, is mirroring your state back to you through pattern. Next is emotional stability, a quiet confidence even in uncertainty. Challenges still appear, but they no longer derail you. Instead, they inform you. You begin to read difficulty as data, resistance as refinement. The emotional waves that once drowned you now become signals guiding you to subtler tuning. And for many, a physical shift follows. The body feels lighter, as if density itself is loosening. Sleep deepens. The breath flows freer. Even your posture subtly changes, less braced, more open. These are signs of internal coherence reflected through form. Still, pay attention, because the mind loves to claim ownership. It will try to convert these signs into control. If I just do this again, I'll get that result. But the field doesn't respond to repetition. It responds to authenticity. It listens to who you are being, not what you're performing. The moment you chase the signs, they vanish. The moment you trust, they multiply. So, what do? When these echoes arrive, you acknowledge them. You give thanks. Gratitude is a stabilizer. It locks frequency into the fabric of experience. Each thank you strengthens the channel between your inner state and the outer world. In the quiet between synchronicities, remember that the evidence isn't the goal, it's the mirror. Don't confuse the reflection for the source. The true shift is happening within the invisible geometry of your consciousness, and the visible signs are simply proof that your vibration has become self-aware. The echoes will grow louder, the miracles more intimate, until one day you'll stop asking whether it's working. You'll simply know. The flow itself will become your confirmation. And that knowing, calm, unwavering, crystalline, is when the signal locks in. You've entered resonance so complete that even the unknown begins to sound like music. And then, as the echoes strengthen, life begins to test the very thing you've built, not to punish, but to prove the durability of your frequency. The field wants to know, can you hold coherence when the rhythm changes? Can you stay in tune when the tempo of existence accelerates? When old realities tremble around you, because alignment isn't fragile. It's meant to be lived in motion. True stability doesn't mean stillness, it means flexibility. A dancer doesn't resist the shifting beat, they move with it. The same is true for consciousness. There will be days when the signal seems to fade, when static returns uninvited. You might feel yourself slipping back into habits, overwhelmed by old emotions, tempted to doubt everything you've learned. But the difference now is awareness. You can hear the distortion. That alone is power. Before, you called it chaos. Now you recognize it as recalibration. Still, beneath that awareness, the real mastery begins. Stability in motion asks you to hold your center while the environment fluctuates. Imagine a gyroscope spinning in the palm of your hand, no matter how you tilt or turn. Its axis remains steady. That axis is your inner coherence. The faster life moves, the more essential that spin becomes. Let's look closer. When pressure rises, the body contracts. That's biology. But consciousness expands, that's choice. You can feel both at once. One is instinct, the other is awareness. Your work isn't to deny the contraction, it's to breathe through it until it harmonizes with expansion. That breath is the bridge between reaction and response. Now watch what happens when you stop labeling experiences as good or bad. You start to sense energy in pure motion, not as obstacles, but as rhythms. The argument, the delay, The uncertainty, each one a change in tempo inviting you to find a new groove. The moment you stop fighting the rhythm, coherence returns. But here's the paradox: stability requires surrender. You hold your vibration not by gripping it tighter, but by allowing it to flow through everything. Resistance is the only real disturbance. The quantum field doesn't reward control, it rewards participation. Think of a river musician playing flute atop the current. The water never stops moving, but the song never wavers. That's your new practice, playing your frequency through motion. You don't wait for calm, you become it. And in that flow, resilience becomes natural. Emotional turbulence turns into information. Each trigger reveals where energy still clings to the past. You learn to meet discomfort with curiosity instead of fear. A conversation that once drained you becomes a tuning session. A setback becomes an adjustment in key. Now imagine your daily life as a waveform: peaks of excitement, troughs of challenge. Stability isn't the absence of these waves. It's your ability to surf them without losing your rhythm. The master doesn't flatten the curve. They ride it in sync with its pulse. You may notice, too, how relationships shift during this phase. People who cannot stabilize in motion often fall away. Those who can meet your rhythm stay. It's not rejection, it's resonance. Your coherence naturally selects the company it keeps. And through all of it, there's one constant anchor: presence. Presence is what keeps your axis aligned. It's the space between thought and reaction, the silence between notes. Stay there, even for a breath, and your signal resets. Because the truth is this: the universe doesn't test you, it tunes you. Every challenge is a frequency checkpoint, ensuring your inner harmony can withstand external change. Every disruption is a doorway to deeper steadiness. And when you pass through enough of these doorways, something profound happens. Chaos stops feeling threatening. It starts feeling musical. You begin to trust that every fluctuation, every acceleration is part of your unfolding symphony. That stability in motion, not a still pond, but a living ocean, ever moving, ever coherent, and always returning to center. By now, you've learned to surf the waves without losing your rhythm. You've felt the field echo back your frequency, sometimes with silence, sometimes with thunder, and through it all, one truth has crystallized: reality isn't something that happens to you. It's something that stabilizes through you. Locking the reality grid isn't about freezing life into perfection. It's about sustaining coherence long enough for the unseen to become seen. Every consistent vibration you hold becomes a framework, an energetic geometry upon which matter organizes. You're not commanding the universe, you're providing it a stable blueprint. Imagine it like light through a prism. When your frequency wavers, the light scatters. When you sustain one tone, the beam holds form. That form is what the world begins to mirror. It's not mystical. Its mechanical coherence creates pattern, and pattern manifests as reality. And yet, this is where most lose patience. They ask, "Where's my result? Why hasn't it appeared yet?" But the field doesn't respond to impatience, it responds to steadiness. The universe can only reflect what has settled within you. As long as you oscillate between trust and doubt, your signal keeps rewriting itself. Manifestation isn't a race to arrival, it's a process of stabilization. Trust then becomes your greatest frequency. Because trust locks vibration into the lattice of time, it tells the field, this signal will not collapse. Gratitude seals it. Surrender keeps it flexible. Together, they harden your broadcast into structure without losing flow. Let's look closer when you wake each morning and choose to feel the reality you're creating. Even when no proof exists, you're sculpting space-time. You're teaching matter where to form. You're declaring to the grid of possibility, this is real enough to build around. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. A single moment of alignment sparks potential. Repeated coherence builds architecture. Your thoughts become scaffolding. Your emotions, the wiring, your actions, the foundation. And over time, the invisible blueprint becomes visible, a life rearranged to match your vibration. But locking the grid isn't rigidity. It's fluid stability, like a spider's web glistening in the wind. It holds, yet it moves. You are the same. The goal isn't to trap energy, but to channel it through form. When your alignment is strong enough, the field no longer tests you with turbulence. It starts collaborating. Synchronicities turn into structures. Possibilities turn into pathways. Still, there's one more refinement detachment. The paradox of mastery is that the moment you no longer need the manifestation, it arrives. Why? Because needing is a signal of absence. Trust is a signal of completion. The universe cannot differentiate between imagination and gratitude. It only measures vibration. So, instead of grasping for outcome, anchor into embodiment. Live as if it's done, not to fool the cosmos, but to show your nervous system that safety and success already coexist. You are training your biology to match your belief. And when body and consciousness agree, the grid locks instantly. And yet, even here, humility must remain. The grid is alive. It continues to evolve as you do. The more you expand, the more it rearranges to accommodate the new signal. This is not about creating a static paradise, but a living ecosystem of resonance. In the quiet moments, you may even sense the hum of it, the architecture of your reality singing softly, adjusting to your every breath. That hum is your proof, not the things that appear, but the steadiness within you that no longer wavers when they don't. This is the essence of locking the reality grid. Your external life ceases to dictate your internal frequency. You've reversed the flow. You broadcast first. The world follows. And when that lock clicks into place, subtle, silent, undeniable, you realize creation was never about becoming powerful. It was about becoming consistent. You hold the note. The note becomes structure. Structure becomes world. And the world, hearing its own echo through you, responds with reverence. When the grid holds and the echoes harmonize, a silence enters, not emptiness, but the still hum of arrival. You've tuned, adjusted, trusted, and now the current flows without effort. It's here that the final revelation emerges. You are not simply a receiver of frequency. You are the source. All along, every exercise, every recalibration was guiding you back to sovereignty, the state where your consciousness ceases to orbit external validation. You become your own field. Your energy no longer wavers in reaction to the world. The world begins to move in response to you. This is the sovereign frequency, the tone that needs no confirmation because it is its own proof. At this stage, the work feels different. There's less striving, less measuring. You no longer chase alignment like a destination because you are alignment. Coherence has become your natural state. You sense reality responding in subtle choreography, people arriving when you're ready, paths unfolding without resistance, challenges revealing hidden symmetry. You don't manipulate the field, you converse with it. Imagine standing at the center of a vast web of light, each strand pulsing with a rhythm that matches your breath. Every thought you think, every feeling you allow, vibrates outward along those threads, influencing the pattern. You realize not as theory, but as truth, that consciousness is infrastructure. The universe builds itself around awareness. And yet, sovereignty isn't control, it's communion. You and the field are not separate entities. You are mutual reflections of intelligence, dancing in rhythm. Control tightens the signal. Communion expands it. The sovereign doesn't demand outcomes. They invite them through resonance. Still, beneath this grace, humility persists, because even as you create, you remain a student of vibration. Every moment offers feedback. Every interaction reveals new harmonics to master. Sovereignty is not isolation, it's participation without distortion. You can walk among chaos and remain clear. You can witness pain and not be swallowed by it. You can hold joy without clinging. Let's look closer. The sovereign frequency doesn't avoid contrast, it translates it. When fear arises, it's not rejection, it's energy asking for redirection. When confusion surfaces, it's the next octave of learning. Every shadow becomes raw material for refinement. You don't banish darkness, you integrate it into harmony. That's what makes your signal unbreakable. It includes everything. In this awareness, even time begins to feel different. The past becomes texture, not trap. The future, invitation, not pressure. You begin to sense your life as a standing wave, a single vibration expressing itself through infinite now moments. Nothing is missing, everything is unfolding in perfect sync. This is freedom, not the absence of challenge, but the mastery of presence. Freedom is coherence that can't be shaken. It's knowing that you can walk into any moment and tune it through consciousness alone. You may notice others start to feel it around you, not through words, but through resonance. Your calm becomes contagious. Your steadiness recalibrates rooms. You don't preach alignment, you embody it. And in that embodiment, others remember too. The sovereign frequency awakens sovereignty in others. That's the secret symmetry of creation. Coherence replicates itself. Each awakened signal strengthens the collective grid. You are no longer just living your reality. You're helping reality itself remember its own design. And here, in this quiet culmination, one truth rings clear: you never had to earn alignment. You only had to stop abandoning it. The field has always been waiting for you to recognize your authorship. So, breathe. Feel the pulse of your own awareness resonating through every cell. This is it, the note beneath all notes, the tone of consciousness itself. It was never hidden. It was you all along. You are the frequency. You are the instrument. You are the field. And the moment you remember that, reality remembers too. The music lingers. You can feel it faint, crystalline, vibrating somewhere just beneath your ribs. The story has unfolded, the frequency has been found, and now the final movement is not a crescendo, but a return to silence. Because every symphony ends where it began, in stillness. And in that stillness, something timeless awakens. The recognition that all along you weren't chasing the song, you were the sound. Pause here. Breathe. Let the air move through you like a tide meeting shore. This is where everything integrates: the thought, the breath, the choice, the echo. The quantum field doesn't need your effort anymore. It already knows your tone. Now it listens for consistency, not in perfection, but in presence. You may have expected fireworks at the end, some grand confirmation that you've arrived, but the real proof is quieter. It's in how you respond to life now. The calm between thoughts, the patience that no longer feels like waiting, the subtle gratitude that seems to hum even in uncertainty. These are the fingerprints of coherence. And as you move back into the world beyond this moment, remember, alignment was never a finish line. It's a rhythm, a breathing pattern between your awareness and existence. Every sunrise is another invitation to retune. Every conversation a chance to stabilize your signal again. Let it be gentle, let it be human, because mastery doesn't mean constant perfection. It means remembering faster when you drift. It means returning to center with less resistance each time. That's how the quantum becomes personal. That's how the extraordinary becomes ordinary. You may notice how even now, the external world feels softer. Sounds seem rounder. colors more vivid. That's coherence bleeding into perception. It's your nervous system relaxing into the truth that you don't have to reach for reality. You create it with every thought you allow to stay clear. So, as you leave this transmission, carry one awareness with you. You are the bridge between the seen and the unseen. Every breath, every act of trust, every moment of gratitude sustains the architecture of the life you imagined. The field continues to listen. The signal remains alive. Walk gently, knowing that nothing outside of you determines your resonance. You are already tuned. You are already here, and in this quiet completion, let the words fall away until only vibration remains steady, sovereign, and free.